Hey y'all, what we're going to do today is we're going to review how to find constant proportionality and read graphs. So I've got this graph that's going to start us off, and we want to write an equation to represent the graph above. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on this graph. And I want to see, what do we notice about this graph? Well, looking at graphs, I'm always looking for perfect points, and that's points where the line goes through and it lines up perfectly. I see one here, here. Do you see another one? Yep, there's one at 3, 6, and 4, 8. So these are my perfect points on my graph. And when I'm trying to write an equation, I'm trying to find the constant of proportionality, which determines at what rate is my graph increasing. So I want to know, what is my constant of proportionality? Now there's two ways to figure it out. First way is constant of proportionality is the rate that it's increasing by. So if we make a sort of table for this, we could do our x and our y. And we could pick our perfect point. So the first x point, my first perfect point right here, is over 1 up 2. The second point is over 2 up 4, over 3 up 6, over 4 up 8. We could make a graph or a table based on that and figure out what the constant proportionality is. Again, how we would determine that constant is, how do we go from 1 to 2, 2 to 4, 3 to 6, and 4 to 8. What do all of those have in common? Well, they are all going up by 2. So I know that my constant of proportionality is 2. I'm just going to write that. COP, constant proportionality, equals 2. Now, there is another way that we can look at this graph and figure out the constant proportionality. You can make this whole table and see it's going 2, 4, 6, 8, or you can just look at the first point. So if we just look at the first point where the number is 1. So I always want to go over 1, and if I go over 1, I want to see how much am I going up. Well, I'm going up 2. And so that means that this 2 right here is my constant of proportionality. You can choose to make a graph, or you can choose to look at just the first point, over 1 up 2. My constant of proportionality is 2 because my x value is equal to 1. So when I go ahead and I write my equation for that, if I know that my constant of proportionality is 2, then I know my equation is y equals 2. That's my constant, or my unit rate, x. All the y values, this means all y values are twice the value of the x values. All my y's are 2 times the size of my x's. All right, this next question is asking me to graph the equation y equals 5x, and I have a blank coordinate grid, and so I can go ahead and graph. If I have the equation y equals 5x, there's a lot that this y equals 5x can tell me. The 5 tells me that that's my constant rate, or my constant of proportionality. That means everything's going to be increasing at a rate of 5. So again, I can use two different strategies. I can take the first strategy from the previous question and say, well, I know that this constant proportionality is 5, so then I know my first point has to be over 1 up 5. The y value, when the y value is 5 and the x value is 1, that means my constant is 5. This is always when the x value is 1. So I can go over 1 and up 5. Make that in a darker color so we can see. Over 1 up 5, that is my first point. And if we're graphing, I often like to make tables. So I know I'm going to go over 1 up 5. Well, then let's just go in order. Over 2 would be up 10. So I can go ahead and put a point at 2 and 10, which would go right here. Now, I can't do any more. If I went over 3, I'd have to go up 15, but I don't have any space to go up 15. So I'm just going to use these 2 points, because all we need is 2 points anyway to create a line. So my line is not the best or the straightest, but there is my equation of y equals 5x. All right, the last example is probably the hardest. We're going to use this coordinate grid to graph the equation y equals 1/3 x. It should be y equals 1/3 x. So I know a lot from this equation. I know it's proportional, and I know that my constant proportionality is 1/3. This is my constant proportionality, or my unit rate. My graph is going to increase at a rate of 1/3. So let's go ahead and get started on that. I'm going to zoom into this graph, and I'm just going to write the equation over here so we don't forget. It's y equals 1/3 x, and we'd like to graph it. So I know that this 1/3 is my constant of proportionality, so that should tell me that my first coordinate point is going to be over 1 up 1/3. Now we just kind of need to guess on this, so I'm going to go over 1 and up 1/3, and I should put a point around about right there. That's up just 1/3, because 1/3 is less than 1, so I can't go up too much. I'm going to keep doing this. If I go over 2, well, how do I go from 1 to 1/3? I can go from 1 to 1/3 by multiplying by 1/3. So I know when I find my y value from 2, I'm going to need to multiply by 1/3. Well, 2 times 1/3, that's equal to 2/3. So I know when x is 2, y is 2/3. And when x is 3, well, I'm going to multiply that by 1/3. 3 times 1/3 is going to be 3/3. But I know that I can write 3/3 as just the number 1. So when I go over 3, I'm up 1. Well, I like this point. It works a lot better because it's 2 perfect points. So I'm going to go ahead and graph that on the graph. We might have remembered last year if we had something like this, the xy, and we had 3 and 1. Well, we know we can go from 3 to 1 by dividing by 3. And y'all, we know that dividing by 3 is the same thing as multiplying by 1/3. So I have my point up over 1, up 1/3, over 3, up 1. I can go ahead and continue to graph this. This is going to be a really shallow line. But that would be the graph of the equation y equals 1/3 x. You've got the rest of your packet to do. Good luck.